Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing the Q&A answers to the questions that were asked to me in my Q&A request. I am not going to be addressing the DID questions that were sent to me privately in this video. That is going to be tomorrow's video. I'm still going to have to mention DID because it's part of my life and it's a very big part of my life, and there are a few questions that do end up having an answer that pertains to DID. So they're just not as specific to DID, and DID is only mentioned versus like being the overall question. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. This is the questions that were left in a public place on my question and answer video, and then the questions that I have for my DID video that I'm going to do tomorrow were left in my email from several different people. I didn't know that it was going to be so popular to ask me about my DID. I thought you guys were like tired of hearing about it, so I haven't mentioned it for a while because I thought nobody wanted to hear about it, but apparently it's still something people want to talk about. But anyway, if you had the perfect library, what would it look like and what would it be having it beside books? Okay, so I've thought about this a lot. It would be a full room, and 3 out of 4 walls would have built-in shelves that were in the shape of playing cards that would have little tiny paintings of Alice in Wonderland characters all up and down them, and they would have the heads of Alice in Wonderland characters up on the top. There would be a glass case at the very, very top that would allow me to like open it and put little thingamabobs, so like dolls and figurines and my unicorn and some cards and stuff like that up on the top out of the way of dust. And then all the shelves would be just filled with books, and they would have different characters of Alice in Wonderland like coming out to like act as bookends. So there's that. And then there would be a really large couch that would have lots of pillows and lots of blankets, and it would be super cozy, and there would be a Keurig machine in there for my coffee, and a little mini fridge because I would need creamer for that coffee. That's the answer. What kind of life would you like to build yourself in the next 5 years? If life were fair, I would say I want to have a significant other and a child within the next 5 years. And I would I'm one of those people who I'm not really sure what direction I want to go as far as career-wise. So I answer that I want to have a significant other and a child, and then the career comes second. But in reality, I still have another 7+ years of therapy work that I have to do for myself for this disorder. The overall like general rule of thumb is 10 years of treatment, and I'm only on year 3. So I've got about 7 years left of treatment to go through. So if I end up with a significant other who can live with that and who is willing to start a family with me in the next 5 years, absolutely wonderful. Like, I'm super on board with that. If I can't find that within the next 5 years, my goal is to focus on getting better and focus on finding ways to live my life as fully as I can with my disorder, and focus on getting more and more invested into the booktube community and working with publishers as much as possible, and hopefully finding a way to make this a job that pays in some way, shape, or form. What was it like moving back in with your parents? Any advice on making it work? So I moved back in with my parents after a relationship ended. I had been in this relationship for 3 years, and I'd lived with my partner for 2.5, and I did not want the relationship to end. It ended on his terms. I I moved back into a situation where luckily I had very supportive parents who really loved me and who really wanted to help me. But I moved in and I immediately went into crisis, and I haven't really stopped being in crisis yet. So the best thing I can recommend is find a show that you all agree on and can watch together as a family. Try and do things for the family, like maybe cook a meal or do the dishes or vacuum, just so that your family knows that you appreciate living with them. If you can help financially in any way, that's always a really nice gesture. I myself do help financially in my home. I give about 20% of what comes to me back to my parents to help pay for environmental stuff, food, healthcare, meds, and therapy. So, and honestly, I don't have a lot of money coming in, so 20% it's not a lot, but it's what I can offer, because I still have to pay for my own stuff. So being as financially separate as possible is also really beneficial, and keeping an open, honest communication about what you need and what you want to have happen is really beneficial. So I would say those are the best things to do to make it work. Will you bring back the psychology of segment? The short answer is yes. The long answer. I haven't done enough research yet to do another video yet. So I want to do Wonder Woman and the Joker, and I know those two for sure, but I haven't done enough research to get those characters really feeling like a fleshed out psychological conversation. I mean, the Joker's kind of easy to do, but at the same time, he's really difficult because you have to talk about the pathology of somebody who has no feelings of empathy or care for another person. But if you read a different side of the Joker in a different comic book, he has empathy and feeling for Harley Quinn. So I have to kind of compare and contrast and see what the overall understanding of the Joker is. And Wonder Woman has so many different facets and so many different characters that have been written for her that it's a lot. So it's gonna be some time, but I do plan to do another one. I might try and do one around Vlogmas. Maybe I could do that. It's a good video idea. When was the first time you saw yourself in a book? So if you guys don't like hearing about me talk about my DID, go ahead and skip this part because I'm going to talk about my DID. The first time I saw myself in a book was Sybil, and I was 12. And I was in a used bookstore and I found a book that said, the cover said, a woman with 16 personalities. And it felt familiar and it felt like something I could understand. And so I asked my parents to buy it for me, and they're like, this is too old for you. You can't have it. Like, this is not okay. Like, you're not going to be able to read this. It's too scary. And I begged and begged and begged, and they were like, fine, fine. So they bought it for me. And I remember it was 4th of July, and I was sitting in the back of the car reading Sybil. And for the first time in my life, I felt like it made sense. The book character made sense because they were losing track of time and forgetting where they'd been. They were talking in other voices, and they didn't belong to the person that was the host. They were feeling overwhelmed and high emotions that didn't make sense. They were responding to things in really dramatic ways. And for the first time, it felt like I was reading a book that had to do with me. And then the parts with Sybil's abuse came in, and I was horrified. But the first time I read it, I only remember a little bit of the abuse, and then I don't remember any of it after that. So as far as I knew, I'd never finished the book. But it turns out that I had finished the book, and I had read it several other times following that when other parts had taken over and read the book to understand their own experience. So that was the first time I ever saw myself in a book, and it's kind of stuck with me as that kind of book. It's really hard to explain when that's your experience of seeing yourself in a book. I definitely, like, I can say I see myself in other books as well, but that's more of like I see myself in the experience of being a woman, or I see myself in the experience of being a rape victim. But like I really, really, truly saw myself 100% in that book. And then as I got older, someone told me that it was a fake, and I couldn't believe it because it felt so real to me. So whether or not Sybil is real, I am still undecided. But it is one of the most accurate depictions of DID that I have ever encountered. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will. What is your favorite thing to learn about? I have a lot of things I like to learn about. I like to learn about females in general and their stories. So whether that be female authors like Sylvia Plath, Virginia Woolf, Charlotte Bronte, Shirley Jackson, I like to learn about them. I like to learn about feminism and the history of it and the science behind it and the experience of other women around it. I like to learn about politics. I'm not great at it, and I'm still learning a lot about politics because I don't understand all of it at all, but I feel like I need to be informed in order to make rational choices and to be outraged. If you're outraged, you have to know what you're talking about. You can't just be outraged for the sake of being outraged. And I don't expect to be outraged on every single subject that I've ever even considered. I do expect that I'm going to have specific subjects that really I can focus in on and either be outraged about or very excited about. So there's that. And then the other thing I like to really, really, really learn a lot about is trauma and its effect on the human body, physically, how it affects the human body, because I really believe that my physical health problems have a real connection to my mental health problems. So that is a huge thing that I really believe and I really want to learn more about. But there's not a lot that people seem to know about it, so I don't really know. What is your favorite poetry collection? So for me, that is Sandy Jeff's The Mad Poets Tea Party. This is a story about, or it's a poetry collection about schizophrenia and meds and hallucinations and madness and the experience of those things, all kind of woven in with an Alice in Wonderland theme. I was lucky enough to be sent this by the publishers, Spinifex Press. And I really, really love it, and I highly recommend this collection. It is an Australian collection, so it's a little bit pricier to get to the States. I think I paid $17 for it at the time I was working, I believe. I might not have been. Anyway, I bought it because I knew it was going to be something important, but I didn't know how much I was going to adore it and how much it was going to affect me. I have a second copy that I bought. So I was sent a copy by the publisher, and then I have a second copy I bought because I didn't think I was going to get sent it by the publisher, and then I did. I have not given that second copy to anybody because I don't know where to put it, because I can't sell it. Like, I have too many emotional connections to it, and I don't want it to go to a home that doesn't love it. And I haven't found the home that deserves it yet. And I think there's a person who I would probably send it to if they asked for it, but they haven't asked for it, so I don't want to force it on them just because it's really dark and twisted, and I don't really know if they want that. Favorite meal to prepare and favorite meal to eat. Listen, I have so many favorite meals. if I'm speaking from myself, my favorite food is fried chicken. I can't eat it anymore because my gallbladder was removed and now my stomach can't handle fatty foods. I am trying to cope with this, but I am struggling terribly. Yeah, fried chicken. I love fried chicken, and I love cornbread, and I love mashed potatoes. So yeah, fried chicken, cornbread, and mashed potatoes is my favorite. And I don't have a green vegetable to put in there because I don't like vegetables all that much. I want to, but I don't. Last book that broke your heart and last book that gave you hope. So the last book that broke my heart was My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent. And I bought this book the day of the book signing at Print Bookstore. And I had 6 hours to spare between the book signing and purchasing the book. So within those 6 hours, I went to a public store that I go to very frequently that sells books as well, but also DVDs and movies and stuff. And I sat in a chair and I read. And I got to certain parts in this book where I just started sobbing, uncontrollably sobbing. And I couldn't stop, and I was in public, and I just embarrassingly covered my face and just like hid behind the book, and just I couldn't come out because it was just I couldn't stop crying. I was so heartbroken and moved by this book, and I think it's one of the best books to come out this year. Is it one of my top 5 books of the year though? No, it might be in my top 10, but it is not in my top 5. So if that tells you anything, just, yeah. Good book. What's the last book to give me hope? So, okay, this might piss some people off and some people might unsubscribe from me. And if that's the case, I don't know what to tell you because I really have no apologies. I got a lot of hope from what happened by Hillary Clinton. I felt there was a lot of overwhelming sense of we can do this and we can get through this. And I really needed that, to hear that from somebody else, especially somebody who had been down to the bottom of the barrel and who had come back up. There's a lot about forgiveness in this book, and acceptance and rejection and fear, and it really touches on all of those things and then kind of talks about how you can overcome them and how you can get better from them. And so I really found a lot of hope and passion within this book that I really wasn't expecting to find. So that's the last book that gave me hope. Again, if you have to unsubscribe from me for that, I'm sorry, but I like Hillary Clinton. And then the last question is, what's the one book you'll never stop recommending to people? Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. This book talks so much about mental illness. It is Jenny Lawson's experience with mental health, and she has a lot of experience with mental health and mental illness because she suffers from several mental illnesses that cause her to have some pretty bad experiences that can almost come off as funny because the experiences are so horrendous. I personally love this book, and I think it's one of the best conversations and memoirs about mental illness that there is out there. It's definitely one of the most uplifting as far as conversations about mental illness goes. And I find it a really, really fascinating story and a really, really interesting and intricate look into the psyche of a person with mental illness. I definitely recommend this to everyone, even if you don't have mental illness, but if you do, you'll get a lot out of this and you'll probably feel a lot of security and safety within it and feel as if you can really relate. And that's just so important to have a relatable story. It really is. And I highly recommend it. And I think everyone should give this a chance. So yeah. those are all the questions that were non-DID related. Tomorrow I will do the DID Q&A, and I will see you guys then. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button, and if you have any comments, go ahead and leave them down in the comments box below. I will see you in my next video. Bye.